Councillor Forbes to move the motion, seconded by Councillor Hunt.
Lord Mayor, tonight is an historic and sad occasion for our city. For generations now, our city has come together to put politics aside and honour those who have either contributed to our city's success or whose actions have made real the values that we hold dear. And if we agree that freedom of the city is about more than just saying nice words in a council chamber, then we also have to accept that guarding its worth comes with a continued responsibility on us all. It is with enormous sadness that I propose that Newcastle City Council removes from Aung San Suu Kyi the freedom of the city granted to her in 2011. The city was right to award her the honour in recognition of her fight for human rights in Myanmar. But since then, she has not shown the same resolve in protecting the human rights of millions of others. And tonight is about voice. It's a chance for our city to unite and send a clear message to someone who has refused to speak out while an entire people are driven from their homes. It's a chance for this council to add our voice to a growing international outrage at what is seen by many as a betrayal of hope. And it's a chance to show that we are serious when we say that Newcastle is a freedom city. Our voice must now be added to those who have refused to turn a blind eye to what has happened to the Rohingya Muslim communities. We can't all fail but to be moved to anger by the plight of those driven out of their homes. More than 650,000 people affected, driven not only from their homes, out of their country, and have seen their homes and villages burnt behind them. I want to pay tribute to those who have been involved in the North East Solidarity for Rohingya campaign. And there are many people in our city who I know have played a part, or who have friends, or who have contacts, or in some cases have visited the people affected by this awful tragedy. We're not alone as a city in condemning this violence. Dublin has removed freedom of the city, as have Glasgow and Oxford. Archbishop Desmond Tutu has published an open letter criticising Aung San Suu Kyi for her silence in the face of the refugee crisis, a price he said was surely too high to pay just to remain in office. Trade unions have spoken out. Unison have revoked her membership and the United Nations have described what has happened in Myanmar as textbook ethnic cleansing under her watch. They've talked about crimes against humanity and said that genocide cannot be ruled out. We know that Aung San Suu Kyi is only part of the problem. We know that the military in Myanmar is still all-powerful and that the people pay a brutal price for that. But this only reinforces the painful consequences of this once great lady remaining silent. Some people might ask, why should Newcastle City Council be involved? Well, we're involved because this city stands by its values and speaks up in defence of them. We are a freedom city, a city of sanctuary, which doesn't just talk about fighting racism and intolerance. We show our commitment by welcoming refugees to this city, fleeing the horrors of war and persecution. And we actively work to make this as a city that everybody, regardless of where they come from, can be proud to call a home. We all know that in the last couple of years we've welcomed nearly 24 refugees from Syria and their families to settle here. And our commitment is more than just words. Others might accuse us of trying to rewrite our city's history. And to them I say that this is about addressing, in a small way, a crisis which is unfolding now on television screens as news coverage continues of people forced from their homes to live in subhuman conditions. So let's be clear. by passing this motion tonight, we are instructing Council to revoke the freedom of the city for Aung San Suu Kyi. We don't have an agreed process for doing this, which is why the motion asks Constitutional Committee to ensure that our intent is followed through. There may be practical issues to consider which are unforeseen. But, Lord Mayor, we take this step with enormous regret that a voice that was once so strongly reflected our values has now chosen to be silent. And we hope that tonight our voice can add weight to those others calling for change and an end to these atrocities. I started by saying that this is an unprecedented move. I hope that colleagues from across the chamber will realise the seriousness of the situation, the strength of our conviction, and the sadness that we all share in this unfortunate but necessary statement of our values and intent tonight. Thank you.
Lord Mayor, thank you very much for this eloquent speech by Nick, and very rightly so. It's a sad occasion for the city when we have to remove freedom of city from a woman many of us admired. And just yesterday we celebrated 100 years of when some women got to vote, where at a time where we should be promoting women, not just in this country but throughout the world. There's not many women who are heroes, they are heroes but not shown to the world. And I think Aung San Suu Kyi for me was a hero, but removing that is very sad, not just for myself, as Nick mentioned, for the city and the country. But we can't forget the past. We've seen what happened. We just commemorated the Holocaust at the end of January, where millions of Jews were massacred, where the likes of the Roma community, 200,000 Roma community, more than that, were destroyed, were killed. Nobody talks about. We're talking about disabled people and gay people who were demonized and killed. But this is happening again. It happened in the mid-90s in Srebrenica, when hundreds of thousands of people, not only Srebrenica, throughout Bosnia, where hundreds of thousands of people were massacred. And the sad reality is, every time there's a massacre against a minority community or the most vulnerable, they are looked upon or made to be the perpetrators, the bad people, the terrorists. It's sad. It's a sad situation. It's a sad world we live in. Some of us councillors, and I know some of them will be speaking in a bit, we went to the Rohingya camps last year in Bangladesh. And I've been to many conflict zones and I have not seen anything like this. Children witnessed their parents getting murdered, burnt alive. Children witnessing their mothers being raped. Think about it. We will go to bed tonight happy. But these children in Rohingya, these elderly, these women who have not got any rights or any voice, we need to contemplate about those people. And this is a sad world we live in. We do not want to remove Aung San Suu Kyi, the freedom of city, but we have to because we want her to understand that we are not going to stand by and say nothing. And finally, it is our duty as human beings to support this motion. Because tomorrow we might not be councillors, but at least we can say we did our bit. Tonight we can go to sleep and we can say we tried. We might not change the world overnight, but at least we tried. And I'd like to finish with a quote by Anne Frank. What is done cannot be undone, but one can prevent it happening again. Thank you very much, Lord.
Councillor Scofield?
No, they don't get this.